Today we're going to talk about the benefits of pinching back pepper plants. A lot of pepper plants are going to look something like this when you get them. They're going to have a really long stem and some top branching, or they may look like this, where they are short but still have that singular main branch. What we want with our pepper plants is to create a bush habit with a strong, sturdy stem, but we want a lot of the energy going throughout the plant. We want to have a bush habit because this long, sturdy stem can only handle so much weight from the peppers that are going to be loading up on this plant later in the season. So we want to make sure that we have even distribution of weight, we have a lot of branching, and we reduce the weight from way up high on the canopy to a lower center on the plant. And the only way to do that is to have a lot of branching. The plant is not going to want to branch right away on its own, and so one thing that pepper owners will do is they will do a pinch back. If you take a look at this plant, you can see all the different branches, and this plant has already been pinched back several weeks ago, and this was the result. This plant, on the other hand, has not been pinched back, and you can see it only has a single stem. So how do you know where to pinch back and what to look for? Well, first of all, you want to have a smaller plant, a shorter plant when you pinch back. If you pinch back too late, you will have a lot of top growth. Eventually the sides will fill in, but it's going to take a little bit of time. It's a lot easier to manage a plant with the pinch back when it's short and younger. So first, what you're going to look for is a short plant. The second thing you're going to look for, I removed some of the leaves so you could see in the canopy here. You want to look for growth coming out of a node, and a node is where the leaf stem or the leaflet here is matching the stem or meeting the stem. So you can see there's a tiny bit, it's not going to focus for me, there we go. You can see there's a tiny bit of growth coming out of these leaflet nodes. That's what we want to see before we pinch back. If you don't see that, you may be messing with your plant a little more than you should. Just wait for those growth points. The next thing we want to figure out is where we're pinching back on the plant. What some people do is they just break the plant in half. They don't understand the pinch back and they break the main stem. We're not really trying to break a lot of the stem, we're trying to stop the growth from the top. So we really only need to pinch back this tiny little stem piece at the top in this first leaf. So if you're not able to do this with your fingernails, you're probably pinching a little too low on the plant. It should be really, really tender growth that we're pinching off. So we've just pinched the very, very top. You can see that flat piece there was the top of the stem. And what will happen now is the plant will be forced to grow out because we've stopped the growth at the top. All of these branches will now grow. This should stop growing unless, of course, something's growing from these nodes, which it will. It'll look like the main stem is continuing, but it's really not. What we're creating is a lot of branching. So if you pinch back late, this is more the habit you're going to get. I removed a lot of lower leaves, and because of that, we eventually are going to get some side growth, but it's taking a lot longer. Instead, what we started to have is growth at the top and branching at the top first. It's so difficult to see with all these leaves and the shadowing, but you can see that V shape, that's your branching. Once this fills in, it will be a nice bush habit and be more evenly distributed. And we have such a sturdy stem that we're not worried about some of this top growth early on. But if that's something you're worried about, you just remove a few of these really, really large leaves without removing the actual branch that you've created. The ideal situation, by pinching back really early when the plant is shorter, like the example, is we have a lot of these side shoots happen early on, and we have a lot of the bush habit happening early. If you look really carefully, you're going to see 1, 2, 3, up to 5, maybe even 7 branches already happening on this plant, and that's what we're really trying to do with a pinch back. We're trying to create a lot of branching habit early on. If I hadn't done this, it's very likely this pepper would be several inches taller, probably 4 inches taller, with a single stem, and it would probably have already started to flop over and started to branch on its own at that point, but without a really sturdy stem. This stem could use a little bit more support, but it will eventually begin to be a lot sturdier because that stem growth is going to stop much, much lower, you're going to form a really, really callous, short, and thick stem, and it's going to be able to support a lot of this branching much, much easier. Additionally, if the branch does become really, really heavy with extra peppers at the end of the season, it's only going to bend a little bit before it's able to stabilize itself, and it's not going to take the entire plant with it. So if you have trouble understanding the pinchback, just use those little tips that I've already recommended to you, and you'll be able to have wonderful bushy habit growth peppers and a much, much, much higher yield at the end of your pepper harvest season.